Y'all ready?
Fish Stripes Live night on a Monday night. Coming to you live again from the mountains. And the usual suspects are all here, and here is Eli Sussman as well. Noah Berger, Isaac Azut, Alex Carver, and Kevin Baral joining me. I am Ethan Madowski. It was a really interesting weekend. First of all, new intro video. Shout out to Eli for the great new intro video. Really enjoyed that. Really interesting weekend and interesting couple of days for the Marlins. After everything that happened with Brinson yesterday. If anybody hasn't heard about it, there was an alleged racist incident. It was alleged that somebody from the stands at Coors Field hurled a racial slur at Brinson that has been investigated and proven false. I thought the Rockies did a pretty nice job in terms of their investigation, stamping it out and finding the truth. I hope it's the truth. I want to believe it's the truth because obviously don't want a racial slur hurled at any player ever, especially for the team that I cover. But I just think it kind of says something about where we're at that is even believable. That's that we went there, and I'm just glad that it was kind of stamped out and we all kind of came to the conclusion that it wasn't what I thought it was. And I just think that my reaction to it, I'm not really I'm going to stand by my reaction to it in terms of I stand by the fact that I saw an alleged racist incident and I called it out immediately as disgusting and vile, as all people should. I'm glad it didn't turn out to be what I thought it was. But again, I really want to stand by that. And I know that I'm sure Eli does as well for Fish Stripes because obviously Fish Stripes as a whole reacted to it. So Eli, you're joining us. You're here. You don't usually do that. I want to go to you here and just kind of your thoughts and just what you have to say from a Fish Stripes perspective.
I recorded a whole podcast Sunday night under the understanding that once we got confirmation from the Colorado Rockies themselves, calling it out as a racial slur and reporting from Craig Mish and others that made it seem pretty definitive that what we actually heard at the time was what we thought it was. That so as I put together my whole pod under the assumption that it was a racial incident, and so I imagine a lot of people got to listen to that, and so ultimately, of course, using this specific example as an example of racial offense was not accurate, but I hope just some of the larger principles mentioned there stand up about the fact that Brinson even mentioned it pregame that almost all black players that reach this level, when you stick around baseball long enough, you are the target of some actual instances of racial violence as black players, that baseball continues to not be an ideal, welcoming space for black athletes. And it's one of many complicated reasons why participation from black athletes is down from what it used to be. That's kind of undeniable. So many players will attest to that. And I just hope, again, my main message was not really this specific incident, but as a lot of white people on here and baseball being a very white community, that people just try to take small steps in taking responsibility for making black people feel more welcome. And it doesn't apply to this case, but when they do, when you hear a black person describing themselves as a victim of an actual incident like this, that you believe them, because that's the one concern I have about this, is that people won't believe black people going forward, even though this stuff really does happen. So I just want people to be mindful of that for sure.
And, I just want to say on that fact that, again, when you hear something like that, if your first reaction isn't to, I tweeted this, isn't to condemn that immediately, that this may have happened, if that's not your first reaction, I think a lot of people have some thinking to do tonight. And there are certain situations where I just really don't think guilty, innocent until proven guilty applies. And I think this is one of those instances where we have to address this as if it happened, because it's so vile. It's so, when you hear it, it's so disgusting. And I had such a strong reaction to it that I think a lot of people around the game, around the Marlins, had such a strong reaction to it. And I think it was fair to have that reaction because, again, it's just such a violent and disgusting act. Now, Eli, Fish Stripes is doing something that I thought was great. And I want you to tell the people about how to support the Players Alliance, because I think this was a beautiful thing that you did. You're muted.
Yeah. So that idea occurred to me in the first place under the assumption that this was an actual act of racial violence, but I'm still going to stick by it, even with, the facts that have come to light that Lewis Brinson, as well as pretty much every other Black player you can think of, as part of the Players Alliance, which is now in partnership officially with Major League Baseball in essentially growing the game among the Black community, not just players, but for any Black person that wants to get involved with baseball. They are putting in the work. That seems like such like a huge undertaking, and it is as you would imagine, building the kind of infrastructure for that, setting up the kind of programs to encourage people to participate. It takes so much time and money to get that going. So they have a lot of people have been very generous and donated to that cause already. It's led by Curtis Granderson, by CC Sabathia, names that I'm sure people are familiar with. But pretty much every Black major league player and some non-Black players are involved in that. And we're going to be making a donation to that. It starts with $25 for Lewis Brinson's uniform number. And then anybody that is willing to leave a rating or a review for the Fish Stripes podcast, it takes just a few seconds to do that on Apple Podcasts. That chips in an additional $1 that we'll be making to this big donation at the end of the regular season. So that would be October 3rd. That'd be something to look forward to at the end of the year. Whereas for most of us, I guess, counting down to that date, it's a lot of dread going on with what's going on at the major league level, but that's at least like something to look forward to and something to do collectively as a group. So I'll be putting a lot of reminders out about that simply rating and review of the Fish Stripes podcast, that just increases the donation that I'll be making at the end of the regular season to the Players Alliance to take these small steps in making that Black community stronger in baseball, doing our little small part. Regardless of this particular incident, just in general, this is something that I really believe in, and I admire what they've been putting together. So I want to play a small part in that.
Yeah, and you can help out the Players Alliance in a big way by doing that, and help us out as help Fish Stripes out as well. And I think that was beautiful what you did, Eli. I think it's great. And like Eli said, all you have to do, it's $1 for each rate and review. It's a great thing to do, and the Players Alliance is doing great work. Guys like Jazz and Monte and Brinson in the Marlins organization, and then Jason Hayward is another guy that I've seen be a champion for this stuff. So Byron Buxton, I know that Kyle Lewis from the Seattle Mariners reached out to Brinson last night. So I don't want to dwell on this too much. I think we're all in agreement here with kind of my and Eli's opening statement. But Alex, I know you had some things to share when it comes to the people that work on the beat that were covering this story. And so I wanted to let you have the floor.
Yeah, this was as disturbing to me, if not as disturbing as what happened in the game, which was most unfortunate. And just a props to Lewis Brinson, man. That guy came on a media call today. I don't know if you guys were there, but he came on a media call. He answered every question that was posed to him openly and honestly, just his true feelings about this situation. Obviously, as Eli stated, it wasn't what we thought. Thank God, because man, you and me and everybody that tweeted about this when it happened, this was the outcome that we were hoping for. That man, I really hope that guy didn't say that. And it turns out that it looks like that he didn't. But man, it sounded horrible. The Rockies, I thought I gotta disagree, Ethan. I think the Rockies could have done a little better with this situation. They waited 3 hours. 3 hours
yeah, it's fair.
before they even addressed the situation. And
it's a fair criticism.
It just left us to dwell on it. For the rest of the night. This was in the 9th inning, and we were left to dwell on this. Did he say it? Did he not? What happened? It certainly sounded like he did, But it's just an unfortunate situation. Rockies could have done a little better. Thankfully, it's not what we thought it was, and it's not what Brinson thought it was. It's not what Paul Severino thought it was. Good outcome, great outcome. I think we're all there. I think we're all in agreement. But man, for people on Twitter and in other spaces that are coming at me personally, I'm not making it about me, but I've received threats personally since tweeting last night what I did. I know our buddy Jeremy Taché has received personal threats against him, and that's one of the nicest people in the world. There's so many great people that are a member of this Marlins community, whether they're media members or not. Peter Pratt's another one. Just for these gentlemen, these nice people, ladies and gentlemen, I should say, that they're trying to do a job. They're trying to do a service. They're trying to report on this team as best as they can. They're trying to bring us the information that they know. I'm not even around the major league team as much, but for those of you guys that are there, Ethan, yourself included, Eli, you as well, Isaac, everybody that's there with the major league team, for them to have to go through this, you're answering what looked like it was going to be, an act of hate. Thankfully, it wasn't. And you're answering that with more hate. So what direction are we really going in? Like, it just, two wrongs cannot make a right. If you're doing that, if you're one of those people that are out there doing this to these members of media and Marlins fans as a whole, go look at yourself in the mirror, because that's not the way to be. And that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I just really want to point out that, I thought what Peter did initially, just calling it out, I told him he did the right thing at first. And for people to, say he started it and he made it up and it was a conspiracy, that's ridiculous. Peter is the nicest person you could ever possibly meet. And I just... It was a tough day. It was a tough day. And for, I don't want to make this about me and the people I work with. This all comes back to the fact that we thought there was an alleged racist incident against a Marlins player. And that's all that it comes back to. And I'm glad that we were able to find that it did not happen. And with that, we can kind of awkwardly transition into what's going on with the team. There was baseball played this weekend. It wasn't necessarily good baseball. And I think
unless
this is kind of
Lewis
where,
Brinson.
Lewis. Hey, credit to Lewis. I mean, look, I just want to say this about Lewis. We all know how it's gone with his career, right? It hasn't exactly gone the best, but he has always been professional, always been classy. He's always been a hard worker. He's always showed up, like Alex said today, answered every question. Just now more than ever, he deserves the respect of the support of the fans, and I just hope we can give that to him going forward. He was great in this series. He's been great the last month or so since he got called back up from AAA. But the Marlins weren't very great this weekend, and obviously I want to call us all out. This is the time to really pick on us for the fact that everybody here except Noah, who picked the Marlins to win 2 out of 3, which you shouldn't really be celebrating because they didn't win a game.
I was the least worst.
You were the least wrong, and you were still very, very wrong. The Marlins got blown out this weekend.
I still have a pending gloat from the Mets series. I never got to do it myself. I just want to make sure that I officially state that I got the Mets series right, and now we have officially done it. So now you may carry on.
We gloated for you. We did give you that Mets series. That was an incredible prediction. Obviously, this Rockies series was an incredibly bad prediction on all of our parts. So, Isaac, I'm going to come to you because we haven't heard from you yet, man. What went wrong? Just talk to us about what went wrong. How did this disaster evolve into what it became?
I don't think they took the course field effect into consideration this series. It goes from the pitching, it goes to the hitting. It was a nightmare of a series. I think you're going to be disappointed a little bit with Jesus Luzardo's performance on Saturday. Could have been a little bit better. And then you go out with a bullpen game with David Hess pitching on Sunday. What are you going to expect? But for the Marlins credit, they scored the runs. It was too little, too late. They scored many runs towards the end of the game, but by that point they're already down by double-digit runs. But new series, San Diego Padres are now our opponent. It's going to be a lot more difficult.
Worse, yeah.
The Colorado Rockies, I'll tell you that much. So not a productive series at all. So hopefully they bounce back well.
Kevin, what went wrong with that Luzardo start? It just really it looked okay at first, and then I looked away and I came back. I think I watched like something in the Olympics or something, and I looked back in 7 hits, 7 runs, 2 strikeouts. What did you see that just didn't really go right for him?
Yeah, so First of all, Cedric Chrome is an absolute Marlins killer after this series. The
My
guy
God.
went off and got Player of the Week.
Yeah, he went 6 of 9 with 4 home runs in this series, I believe, which is just
Connor
crazy.
Joe.
Yeah, who is that?
Unknowns on that team, man. Yeah, but
that team. Yeah, go ahead, Kev.
No, what I was saying with Luzardo, I didn't watch too much of the start because after I saw it was like 4-0. That's when you usually transition to something new to watch on my TV, unless the Marlins either are down by 1 run or tie it. It was just a tough series to watch, man. Jesus just didn't have his stuff. The Coors Field effect really got him. It's not much more we could say. I mean, we all said sweep, and that was not even close. I will want to say I'm never going to say the Marlins are going to sweep a series ever again for now until the team's actually winning. So, yeah, it was just a tough series. Luzardo didn't have his best stuff. Coors Field. The Rockies took advantage of it, and that's why their record is 38 now and 14 away. It should be, I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Coors Field effect just really hurt the Marlins.
It really is crazy. I mean, the ball was just flying out. Like, they just didn't stop hitting home runs. It was pure insanity. No, I know you missed a couple of the games, but looking at these scores, 14-2, 7-4, 13-8, you know, what does it kind of say about the Marlins where they're at, that they play a team that they're supposed to be, you know, pretty much the same. They have a very similar record, and they come out on the other side of it swept in disastrous fashion.
I think the team grossly underestimated the size of Coors Field, 1. 2, how much the atmosphere affects your play. There were guys that after the games were saying we were out of breath. They were not prepared enough for the games at Coors Field. That altitude will have an effect on your game. The ball carries more, but you also got to remember that field is ginormous. It's one of the biggest fields in all of baseball. There was a ball that Aguilar hit that it only was not a home run. The only place it's not a home run was Coors Field. That one was a dagger to the heart.
I have no idea how that got out, considering some of the balls the Rockies hit out. Like, I just saw that off the bat, and I thought that was a shot.
I thought it was gone. I was not able to watch the entire Friday night game. The most of the Saturday game I wasn't able to watch. I did get sick over the weekend, so I was asleep for half of Sunday's game. So I didn't really watch much. I didn't really watch much of the series. I would love to say it was a good thing, but I was in tremendous amount of pain.
No, it's good for you that you missed the games. I mean, it was so tough to watch, man.
I saw
it was brutal.
The funny part was I saw the later parts of the Saturday game and the later parts of the Sunday game, which was when we were scoring runs.
Maybe you were the good luck charm, but still couldn't bring the Marlins a win. I mean, just like 14-2, you know, that's 12, 3, 5, outscored by 20 runs, I want to say. Is that correct in the series?
And just, every single time I see someone comment about the run differential now being negative, it's just turning the knife in my heart.
Well, that was bound to happen eventually. And, you know, in the second half, it always seemed like it was going to kind of catch up to the Marlins. You know, if you are a run differential truther, the Marlins now have a negative 18 run differential heading into a series against the high-powered San Diego Padres. It turned around quickly. You know, the Marlins, obviously, they had that game in Washington where they went from a positive to a negative run differential, and then they threw that one away, and then it was kind of balancing. You know, I think they went back to like plus 10 or something, and then it went down, and then now they're again, you know, minus 18, and it's just showing the kind of team they are. And, you know, the pitching is supposed to be the strength of the team, and the pitching got absolutely crushed. I mean, Sandy got blown up. Not sure what happened there. Couldn't really put anybody away. You know, who pitched on Luzardo gets, you know, crushed. So, Alex, you know, what I want to go to you with on Luzardo. Kind of, what did you see? Where did it go wrong? What was different from his first time out when we all said he was really good?
Just too much plate, man. That'll be my synopsis of Jesus Luzardo in that start. You know, had the control, just the command was not there. He was way over the plate, and when you do something like that at Coors Field, it's going to be a problem, and it was. So yeah, I mean, you know, outside of the pitching, and yeah, it was a 34-14 for their runs allowed versus runs scored. So yeah, as you said,
it's insane.
Negative 20 run differential in this Coors atmosphere, which is hard. Some pluses. I mean, you like to see Brinson keep going. Alex Jackson hits another bomb. That guy's hit everything hard. I really like the look of Alex Jackson. So that'll be my pluses for this series. But, man, tough overall, especially see Sandy struggle. I wanted to see Jesus build off that start, do well. Didn't happen. And then you go bullpen game and you know what happens there. So tough for pitching. Offense, was okay. I've liked what I've seen out of Isan and Brinson and Jackson as well. And De La Cruz, I think he kind of took a little bit of a step back in this series from, I guess, his first showing. But you'd like to maybe see him hit a little better in a hitter's park. But it is what it is. And we go forward, man. I mean, this is what this season is going to be for the rest of the time. You guys all know that. It's just going to be an exercise in futility and finding the positives. But I think there were some positives in this series despite the scores.
So 47 wins right now for the Marlins. They are 47-65. They've got a long ways to go, 2 months left in the season. 23 wins would get you to 70, which I think is a threshold that the Marlins kind of need to cross right now. Eli, I want to go to you to start off this next discussion, which is going back to Lewis Brinson, but this time about his play on the field and how good he's been recently. I know that the Ks and the walks are still, high K rate, not a very high walk rate, but encouraging results recently. It's really been great to see for him. What have you seen that he's kind of been able to? He's been on fire.
He's been on fire like never before. I was somebody that I was not all that enthused by what happened in the middle of last year. There was some thought that was going to be his breakout, that was the real version of him. And I did not feel that was super duper legitimate. And I mean, even with this, what we're seeing is that I don't have any sort of bold analysis other than that, like, actually, if you look at his previous career all the way up through 2020, like, this is going to seem like a silly cop-out, but he was a little unlucky on his balls in play. Like, you compare him to every other hitter that was playing, like, significant amount of playing time, 2018, 2019, 2020, going to StatCast, his weighted on base average versus his expected weighted on base average, and he had, like, one of the biggest gaps in baseball. So there's some, like, of his own responsibility in there. Like, he is a kind of predictable guy. He gets occasionally very pull happy. But I mean, so I guess it's really a little bit of everything, where I think during the streak, one at bat that really stuck out to me is the grand slam. Didn't he hit that to the opposite field at Lone Depot Park, all the way down the right field line? Like, that was one hit that really stood out to me. That was one moment that made me excited about Brinson for one of the only times I've ever been excited about him, at least as an offensive player. So you look at his numbers since he got called up. The date was July 19th that he was brought up the most recent time, and he's third among all their hitters in WAR since then. He's only behind Miggy Rowe, and he's behind Starling Marte, who has since been traded. And that's it. And then it's him. And it's not even that big of a drop-off from those guys to him. I guess it's exciting because this makes him feel like I feel like he's a legitimate guy now, but what that really means, not necessarily an everyday player on a team that you want to be contending next year, but it's a big step forward from where I thought he was entering the spring, when I thought they should have DFA'd him instead of Harold. Remember that? You look at it now, I mean, there's been a lot of ups and downs this season for those two guys. Brinson's having, like, just as good a season as Harold is in Cleveland. And so for me to admit that, knowing my own biases when it comes to Harold, I think that alone says a lot about how far he's come. So I've been really delightfully surprised by him.
Well, right now, 741 OPS, 102 weighted runs created plus for Brinson. And since you were on the subject about Harold, 702 OPS, 88 weighted runs created plus. So he's actually, in a shorter sample size, been a lot better. But Isaac, we were talking at the end of last show just about filling out the back end of the roster and kind of improving the back end of the roster. Now, and we were talking about Brian De La Cruz being a fourth outfielder. Now, all of a sudden, if your fourth and fifth outfielders are, he's not going to hit 360 every week or whatever he's been hitting recently, but a more productive version of Lewis Brinson, where he plays good defense, he runs well, he's putting the ball in play a bunch, and he's been putting the ball in play more, and he's been hitting for power. So if that is your fourth option, or De La Cruz is your fourth option, it looks a little better than what they've been working with recently. Am I right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I went on record saying that, Brian De La Cruz is a much better fourth outfield option than Brinson. However, Brinson, obviously, like you said, he's not going to hit 360 every week. But if he's able, keep this approach like consistently and be that fourth outfielder, he's faster than De La Cruz. He's got a better arm than De La Cruz, I believe. I'm not 100% sure on that. And he's got more power from the looks of it than De La Cruz. So if Brinson can be this guy, not starting every day, but still playing well, hitting the ball to the opposite field, that line drive in the 8th inning against the Mets, right center field gap, when the SNY guys were making fun of him a little bit, that was another swing that really stood out to me. Because you know what, like, damn, it's a critical situation, a hard-throwing sinker, he drives to the right center field, and it was a laser. So if he can be that way, he's a hell of an option for a fourth outfielder, maybe in some platoon starts against lefties. So very encouraged with what I've seen from him. And like Alex said, De La Cruz a little bit of a step back this series. You'd have liked to see, a little bit better at bats from him, but we got the rest of the season to make our determinations on these guys.
And obviously, I think everybody kind of is playing off the assumption that the Marlins are going to go out and improve in center field, but not a bad backup outfield option to have with Brinson right now. So Alex, for you, what have you seen? Because you followed this guy for a long time, the way we, a lot of us have. But me and you, when we went to spring training, we were talking about this guy looks improved. He looks better. He looks more focused. And you predicted that he would have a nice year, and he is having a nice year so far. Especially since he's been back from AAA. So what have you seen that he's really been able to tap into something recently?
Yeah, I think Rowson spoke to it perfectly today, and just saying that he was a slower to build guy, obviously, very slow, and from a fan standpoint especially, where a lot of people were out on this guy. But I think you're seeing every tool right now with Lewis Brinson and what he's capable of. The question is sustainability. We've seen spurts like this from Lewis Brinson before, and he's gone cold afterwards. We all know that. But man, it just looks good again, man. And that's what we can say. And I said it to you in spring training that he looks confident, he looks solid. Season started, didn't happen. It is what it is. He's back now. AAA, he looked great. Obviously, AAA is AAA, and you have to make it stick on the major league front. But man, now that he's back, he's getting those consistent starts, getting the consistent at bats. I think you're seeing it, and I think this is the version of Brinson that a lot of people thought that he could be, myself included. So I love it, man. I'm enjoying every game. The one thing that I want to see is Lewis Brinson hit. So we probably wouldn't have said that at this time. Probably last year or maybe in 2019, but the fact that we're saying it now is great. I'm so happy for Lou, man, and it's great to see. I want to see him continue and just keep going.
And last year, he kind of became this lefty specialist. He was really good against lefties, and he has been much better against lefties, I should say. This year, I'm looking at the splits right now. 289, 786 OPS, and then against left, and then 243, 714 OPS. But he's staying afloat against righties. Last year, he was a disaster against righties. It was a huge gap in terms of what he did against lefties and what he did against righties. And he's kind of shortened that a little bit this year. So I don't know, man. Like I said, 264, I think he's hitting right now, and a 740 OPS. Like, if that's coming off the bench for you, that's pretty solid. And I wouldn't necessarily say. I think maybe he's earned, if he keeps this up the rest of the year, I think he's earned himself a shot to compete at the center field job. I wouldn't say he's earned the center field job or the right center or the right field job or the left field job, but he's at least earned himself another year on the team. Noah, from your homer perspective that we love on here, how good does this feel for Lewis Brinson after all that he's been through?
So I will say, from the beginning of Lewis Brinson being with us, from like the first year, I've said if he gets consistent at-bats, he's going to be special. You can ask friends of mine. I've said it, I promise. He's finally getting consistent at-bats. Previously in years past, whenever he's gotten into a hot streak, he's gone on the IL. He's gone back to AAA. He's gone back to the minors. He's never really gotten consistent playing time. No, he didn't. He did not have consistent at-bats.
I mean, he
He
played
did.
he played 100. He played 109 games in 2018.
No, in 2018, he was the starting center fielder all year.
Yeah, long. Yeah, he was the starting center fielder.
2019, he was opening day center fielder.
2019 is when he got hurt. He got demoted.
No, but 2019, he was given the first 2 months was all him. He was a dead starting center fielder.
It was all him.
And then he got sent
corrected. Then I stand corrected.
No, there is. I looked this up because I spent a lot of time on this. That there really is nobody that got as much playing time at that age that Brinson got in 2018, 2019, like that, and struggled that much that turned into anything. Like there's like no precedent for kind of if he keeps this up the rest of the year. If he's like an actual league average hitter now, it would be like unprecedented. It really is amazing for a guy to struggle to get so many reps early in his career and be so bad. There's no way to sugarcoat it. And that's why I think a lot of people understandably were out on him. And he is, to this point, he is trending in a way that he is proving a lot of people wrong, that he is proving to be really an anomaly. That's really hard to find other guys that have turned it around the way he does. And that you got to give him so much credit for that.
Let's forget I just embarrassed myself there.
If you look at that, he didn't get his shot. He definitely got his shot, as you guys just mentioned.
Than a shot.
The Marlins wanted him to succeed so bad that they gave him all this playing time, even though he was struggling so badly. But man, it just goes back to the fact that not every player develops at the same rate as everybody else. I mean, it's taken this guy a long time to do it, and hopefully it sticks. Let's it's great right now, but let's just say that maybe it doesn't, but hopefully it sticks. And that's what you want to see is the consistency in the performance, not the consistency in playing time, but the consistency in performance, because he's definitely had a shot. And it's great that he's getting another one. Maybe if the Marlins were in contention, he would not be getting the shot. I highly doubt that he would be, because Marte would probably still be here and a couple of other things. But, the fact that he's making the most of this opportunity right now, that's what's most important for Lewis Brinson, and hopefully he continues.
I mean, one guy that he's been compared to a lot is Byron Buxton. They had a similar profile. Buxton was the number 1 overall prospect, whereas Brinson was a top 20 prospect. Similar to that athletic, toolsy profile where they didn't really hit early. But if you look at their numbers, like Buxton had serviceable numbers at least. His first year wasn't great, but I mean, he was always kind of hurt. But, he played 140 games in 2017, and he had a 728 OPS, 92 weighted runs created plus. That's not necessarily good. That's below league average hitter. But, Brinson, I mean, was struggling so much in that same time period, in 2018.
If you want, I'll give you the numbers really quick. I have them right here.
I've got him 199, 56 weighted runs created plus. It's just it was so bad, and we all compared him to Buxton, and the fact that Buxton came on late and he turned into this really good player. But Buxton had now looking at it, I didn't realize how much of a better base he had. Brinson hit under the Mendoza line 3 years in a row, in his short stint with Milwaukee, and then his first full season with Miami, and then in that 2019 season when he was up and back. But now he's come on, and it's been a really good development. I would still like to see him walk more. That's obviously something that he has to work on. I would like to see him strike out less. Only 296 on base compared to a 261 average. So, not exactly what you're looking for there, but it has been a nice development. Say again?
That entire Rockies series, he had 1 strikeout.
Yeah, no, that's a huge development for him. Yeah. He was putting the ball in play more, and you just want to see him put the ball in play more. I mean, his batting average on balls in play is really high right now, and so that's a bit of a concern. But listen, man, it's just great for him. It's anytime he does something good, it's it's good to see. I mean, Eli, if you can put this stat up in the chat right here about his last 7 games, 400, 423, 680, slugging, 5 extra base hits, 9 RBIs. Again, 400 average, 423 batting, on base percentage. So you're looking at a handful of walks there where you'd like to see a little more. These are still really good numbers in his last 30 games. He's hitting over 300. This is the kind of stuff that you're looking for. It's crazy how long it took for him to become a serviceable MLB player, but he's done it. And, Kev, like I said, especially with what's gone on recently, just you have to feel happy for that guy, right?
Yeah, man, this guy's confidence, I would say right now, is at an all-time high. This guy's just burning the league right now, man. And I'm not going to say he's the best player right now, but he's playing really well, really good baseball, man. A grand slam, he's getting hits, he's doing it all. When it came to Lewis Brinson, I think the only doubt after all was his offense, because he was never really that bad defensively. He was pretty good center fielder, or wherever he played in the outfield at that point. It was just as bad. He couldn't bat. He just couldn't. It's kind of like a Chavarria when he was on the Marlins. He couldn't bat. He had good defense, but he just couldn't bat. But, finally we're getting this form of Lewis Brinson that we all thought of in the trade once and for all. So I'm happy for Brinson, man. He's finally getting this. He's finally getting love from all Marlins fans. We're not trashing him like we did at the start of the season or, the last couple of years. But it's time, man. Lewis Brinson is reaching that form that we want to see.
And it's funny, he's kind of getting hot at a time where Christian Yelich is really struggling. Actually, Brinson has better numbers on the year. It's in a much smaller sample size than Yelich does, which is just kind of a funny thing to acknowledge. But I just want to go around the room, as well as Brinson's been playing, anybody ready to be sold on Isan Diaz yet? I'm curious.
No.
Give me another week.
Another week.
Maybe a month. Maybe a month. Maybe another month.
A lot of rollovers to second base recently, but it has been better, a little more productive. I will say he's been very good at third base in terms of his defense has been a lot better over at third base. But trying to think.
He finally picked up his hitting.
Trying to think if I had anything else before we start going into this Padres series. About
Brian
23
Anderson.
minutes until first pitch. Brian Anderson, a little struggle. Go ahead. Go ahead, Isaac.
Like that on Brinson. There's obviously, we all are a Twitter family here, and we all see the Lewis Brinson slander. You guys forget he's human. He sees it as well.
Yeah,
he sees it every day. He hears what we have to say about him. He sees the tweets. We don't root for him, the guy to fail, and the guy finally performing to a respectable rate right now. No, there's not a classier human being in baseball than Lewis Brinson. Alex was talking about it pre-show about his. He answered every single question in the press conference, and they weren't easy questions to answer. He doesn't want to be answering that questions. He wants to be answering questions about his performance, and he was answering them. And even when he was hitting 190 and 170 in 2019, he did not deny a single interview. He did not deny a single question, and he really is a stand-up guy. And I'm really happy for the guy.
You can see that when Donnie, kind of talks about when he gets rolling, that it just makes him happy, and I think it just makes a lot of people happy for Lou. And
everyone's rooting for the guy.
Yeah, for sure. But anyway, about 20 minutes until first pitch for the next. Obviously the Padres are coming up, and no Tatis. Cronenworth is playing great in his spot, but Alex Carver. This is something I've been meaning to do for a while with you. Let's talk about the farm for a little bit. And one guy I want to talk about in particular this week, and I know you've been raving about him all week, is Peyton Burdick. He's a guy that Marlins fans have been itching to see get going. JJ Bleday was going for a while there, and then I tweeted about him, and he had a terrible week, which is very typical. But I just want you to update us on the farm, give us a little bit of what's going on down there, and talk to us about Burdick in particular. And unmute your mic first, which you did. Nice job.
Yeah, I remember this time. But anyways, Burdick, man. That guy's been getting on base all year. I put it out earlier. He's got on base in 24 straight games, I should say. The issue has been the bat to ball, but he has been getting on base via walks. So he's seeing pitches well. He's recognizing pitches. It's just the bat to ball that's been the problem, man. And that's apparently worked itself out this week because this guy was hitting everything in sight. Had a great week. I put that out earlier on Twitter. So, man, it's just another guy like Bleday. You mentioned Bleday this week was off, but before that he was right there doing the same exact thing. These guys started the season slow. They've always been walking, as I just mentioned. So the pitch recognition is not the problem. It's just the bat to ball. You saw Bleday make some mechanical adjustments, which have really helped him. And Burdick, man, that guy is just showing everything that he can be. Bat speed's there, barrels in the zone. He's going to all fields. It's a ridiculous skill set, and there was no doubt for me, and I'm sure Eli, Isaac, and anybody else that covers prospects in this Marlins system that this was going to happen. And it's just a joy to see this last week. He's had moments, earlier in the season where he was doing the same thing, and then he kind of went cold again. But I think that's the kind of hitter that we can expect Peyton Burdick to be at the next level. Honestly, I don't think he's that consistent, 280, 290, 300 hitter. I think he's a guy who's going to go on spurts. He's going to be a guy that strikes out, but he's also going to be a guy that walks, and that just goes to all the violence that's in his approach and his swing. This is a guy that puts everything he has into his swing, the big muscly dude. So I think we can expect, some moments where he's going to struggle, but if he's recognizing pitches, if he's able to get the bat to the ball's going to fly, and that's exactly what you saw this week, and I think that's the kind of player he's going to be.
I actually didn't realize how good his numbers are, but he's got an 859 OPS right now and a 137 weighted runs created plus, all while hitting 221. So if this guy can get his average up, if the balls can start landing for him, he only has a 275 BABIP compared to 380 and 375 at two different levels in 2019. If the ball can start landing for this kid, his numbers are just going to go through the roof. And yeah, he can really hit. 18% walk rate this year, so 375 on base percentage, which is just tremendous, especially for a guy that's hitting 221. Striking out at an almost 30% clip, which I know Eli, you have your concerns about. So I want to go to you on him for the conservative Burdick view.
I would say I'm super conservative. I was conservative relative to the norm, like entering the spring, where there was a lot of hype just based on how the Marlins feel about him internally. This movement that maybe he's the actual best outfield prospect that they had. There was a lot of hyperbole out there that I was just trying to walk back. And to be honest, he's really impressed me. He's this has been a really good season for him, almost as much for the defense as the offense. Where I'd kind of put him in this category, in this bucket of being a corner outfielder. And he's ended up being the most used center fielder for Pensacola this year. And for the most part, he's looked fine out there. He's made a lot of. There was a moment last night where I think it was last night or Saturday, probably Saturday, where he almost plowed into JJ Bleday, and Bleday was in left field and Burdick was in center field. And Bleday had to back up, remembering who the bigger guy is and who had priority on that ball. There's still some things to work out in terms of that, but the fact that he actually has the versatility to play all three spots, in addition to the power that we've always known is there, it's super encouraging. There have been times this year where the swing and miss has been disturbing, but for the most part, as the season has gone on, generally he's trended in the right direction in that department. There was a particular stretch, I guess, going back to the end of July and early August, where he went a handful of games and only struck out once or twice, and I didn't even think he was capable of that against AA competition. So, for the most part, I've come around on him. I always believed, dating back to 2019, the first time I saw him in pro ball, that he is going to have a substantial major league career. The effort that he plays with is my favorite thing about him on both sides of the ball, as the base runner as well. I think even recently, let me try to think. No, that was, yeah. There are a lot of examples that you could come up with the way that he plays that makes him different from even these other highly regarded prospects. And I just wanted to get my prediction out there that I've mentioned it a couple of times already, that I think he's going to be in the big leagues next month. I think they are going to call him up in September. The way that the organization feels about him and the way that generally his season has trended in the right direction, they're going to give him a look, I think. At 24 years old, he's a little older than Bleday, and even a little older than Conine, he's older than you think. So there's no real projection left, right? He is 230 whatever pounds of filled out muscle. There's not much. I think he is who he is, and who he is right now is a guy that I think can help you win games at the major league level. So I think we're going to see him very, very soon.
I called this out early on him, and I know Eli knows this. I called this out really early, I think last year, or maybe even the year before, that my best comparison is Justin Upton. It's a guy that hits 263 with a good on-base percentage and a pretty good slugging percentage. So I think it's going to be more power than average, but I definitely think the power tool will trump the hit tool here because of how much he puts into his swing, as Eli just mentioned. But I think a good comparison for those of you that are looking for one is Justin Upton, and I've always been on that boat.
Isaac, I want to go to you. What is something that's caught your eye down on the farm recently? I know that you keep up with this stuff pretty. I can't find the word that I'm looking for right now, but pretty consistently. So, what's something that stuck out to you recently?
Well, with a team like the Marlins, there's a handful of things to keep up with on the farm system. One, I'll start with the pitching in AA. I think that pitching staff at AA is incredible, especially top two, Jake Eder and Max Meyer, both of them leading the their respective leagues in ERA. And after them, too, they both have ERAs in the ones, I believe, right?
Yep.
After them, it's a whole.
The next guy is in the threes.
In the right. It's a run and a half for the next guy. So I think that's a really impressive thing. I think you guys just touched on Peyton Burdick. I've been really impressed with him. I think, him getting on base and his OPS being where it's at and his way to run created, that's got to be encouraging that, we will see him in September. Eli, I really think so as well. And besides that, Uri Perez has really caught my eye a lot.
Amazing.
Him and Edward Cabrera, obviously, different, levels. But boy, those guys can strike people out. Uri Perez at his age, striking out the amount of guys he's doing. And at that level, wow, the amount of pitching that this organization has. It's going to be tough to see whoever they end up getting rid of this offseason. It's going to be tough to see them go. But, you feel fine knowing that, there's like guys like Cody Poteet and Zach Thompson, guys that were created from nothing. And you have guys like Uri Perez all the way down there, along with maybe Evan Fitterer and guys like that. So it's really up and down the entire organization. You have a lot of pitching. So I think that's like the main takeaway for sure.
It's incredible. There's a standout performance on the mound every night in the organization. It really is just crazy. One night it's Eddie Cabrera, one night it's Uri Perez, one night it's Max Meyer, one night it's Jake Eater. And, the minor league guys are off today. At the major league level, sometimes crazy enough it is. But, off today is the minor leaguers. Hopefully Blade can kind of get back on track after a rough week. A few good weeks before that one. I'm not giving up on JJ Blade. I do think he's going to have to repeat AA, which I think will be fine. He's 23 years old, 24. If he's around at 24, 25 and he's getting called up, I think that's fine. But, might be a late bloomer, year off. But he's had some really great stretches this year. And he seems to have found something when he made those mechanical adjustments. I mean, even this week when he struggled, he still ripped that double down the right field line that I saw. I think it might have been one of his only hits this week. He snapped like an 0 for 19. But that's a little bit of a farm report. I think we all can use that right now. That is something that I think a lot of people are going to have an eye on at the back end of the season. And of course, if you don't already follow Alex Carver, Fish on the Farm, do it. They keep you updated every night on guys you've never heard of, at Marlins Minors, and of course all the top guys as well. So the minor leaguers are back in action tomorrow night. Make sure you keep up with all that stuff. There's a lot of good stuff going down on the farm. But right now it's time to focus our attention on the big league club, and the Marlins head out to San Diego from Colorado. One guy they will not be heading out to San Diego with is Jazz Chisholm. He's not feeling well. He has flu-like symptoms, and he was placed on the IL today. I guess I'm just kind of hoping that it's a short stint, because here comes Devin Marrero instead of Bryson Brigman again, which just makes absolutely no sense. I love Alex in the corner. His reaction right here, as guys that follow the farm and the way that Brigman has been playing this year, it's just frustrating to see, opportunity after opportunity go by the wayside for him. We saw what happened with Brian Miller. Joe Dunan's not even getting a shot. So hopefully it's just another one of those ones where the Marlins don't want to have to DFA Brigman. And, they think it'll be a short stint, so they won't know they would have to DFA him. And they know that if they DFA him, they would probably lose him. Same with Dunan. So they don't want to do that. But again, Jazz won't be here this weekend or this week in San Diego. Hopefully the Marlins will get him back in Chicago, and hopefully they'll get their manager back as well. Don Mattingly still not back with the club, recovering from COVID.
Starting to make me worry.
Getting back from COVID, and just, it's been an interesting sort of change up. The Marlins, the lineups have been different. Didn't necessarily, I thought, play with a lot of energy this weekend. Obviously they got blown out in the fashion that they did. So, it could be that, but I think the Marlins are ready to get home. But first they have to deal with these Padres, and it's a 3-game series, not a 4-gamer, right?
3.
They have an off day. It's a 3-gamer, and then they've got an off day on Thursday. So let's look at the pitching matchups here as we go into it.
Tonight.
I don't think Thompson and Joe Musgrove, I want to say, is tonight, right?
Yeah.
And then we don't know who's going to pitch tomorrow, because we don't think Trevor's going to pitch tomorrow as he deals with a family emergency. And then Sandy goes again on Wednesday trying to recover from that start in Colorado. And we saw the way he recovered from his other bad start in LA. He was great that next time out. So let's go around. We got 10 minutes left. Just Noah, I'll start with you. What are you looking for, and what do you see happening, transpiring in this series?
I'm looking for Lewis Brinson to continue his hot streak. I'm looking for Isan to back him up. Alfaro maybe to get some good swings in, get some good RBIs in. I'm looking for Aguilar to finally get some more RBIs into his tally, even though he had some in the Rocky series. It wasn't as much as I would have liked. Miggy, hopefully he doesn't take someone's head off.
That was funny to see him act like that. Was funny.
He was out for blood. I want top to bottom of the order. I want everyone hitting. That's the only thing you could ask for. I'm really hoping Zach Thompson can throw a really good game. The bullpen can back him up. I'm gonna go with a 2 out of 3 here for the Marlins.
Okay, so putting it on the line for a 2 out of 3 again after the disaster this past weekend for Noah.
The past series with the Rockies, I'm honestly gonna put on Coors Field.
There were some bad
field.
Look. There were some.
Underestimated Coors Field.
I know it's Coors Field, but there were some really bad pitching performances this weekend, and the Marlins could really use a good pitching performance today from tonight. I guess I should say it's definitely not today. Tonight from Zach Thompson, because they have not gotten one in a few days, and the bullpen has been used a lot. They're coming off a bullpen day yesterday. Bullpen had to be used a lot. Sandy didn't go deep. Luzardo didn't go deep. So Isaac, what are you kind of looking for, and how do you kind of see this one transpiring? I see you shaking your head. It's the Padres. They're still one of the best teams in Major League Baseball, even though they've fallen off in the NL West a little bit.
Yeah, an incredibly fun team to watch from afar. We'll be looking at Cronenworth. Let's get a look at the Crone zone because I'm sure he's going to go deep at some point. This whole series, just more about looking at the Padres, seeing if Brinson can continue. But for me, the main game is to see how Sandy bounces back on Wednesday. I think that is by far the most important thing going on in this series. A little disturbing 10 earned runs in 3 1/3 against Colorado. Whether you're in Miami, Noah, or you're in Coors Field, those balls are gone. So, we got a little bit worried about that. So we're going to see how he responds back from that start. But other than that, fun to see a really, a team that's hungry, and they're going to be trying their best, the Padres here. They got a division title to try and win. So it's going to be a fun series.
They've fallen off a lot, and I don't know if that's a result of the Giants just being incredible or if they haven't been playing well recently. But Musgrove, Stammen, Weathers, so you avoid Darvish. I saw Snell pitch last night. So not getting the brunt of the Padres rotation, but the rotation is still really solid. They are 5-5 in their last 10, so they're not playing their best baseball coming in. But they are still the Padres. Their offensive potential, night in, night out. So, Kev, what are your expectations here, and what do you got for us?
Man, they just got to try to win some games, or at least get these guys some playing time. I mean, how do you call it Devin Marrero, man? You have Joe Dunand. You have Bryson Brigman. Just call it Brigman. You're going to – isn't he Rule 5 eligible this year?
Yeah, he needs to be on the roster.
At some point, they're going to have to call him up because there's no way they're just going to let that talent leave the Marlins that quickly. And, man, just got to get some wins. I don't even know what else to say, man. It's the Padres. I'm excited to see Adam Frazier first time we'll be seeing him. I'll be seeing him at least on the Padres uniform. It's a crazy team. It's who's on the mound? Joe Musgrove. That guy is incredible. He's a good pitcher.
Great year.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult series, and Marlins take 1 out of 3. I think the only win they'll get is the Sandy start, so they'll lose tonight and tomorrow. Most likely tomorrow's either Knight or Braxton, and most likely the obvious guess would be the bullpen game, which we've seen a lot. They love these bullpen games at this point. So yeah, Marlins take 1 out of the 3.
By the way, I forgot to mention that as well. I'm so certain that we will take 1 out of 3. 1 out of 3
All
for
right.
sure.
So 1 out of 3 from Isaac. I'm guessing it's that Sandy start. And the thing with Sandy in Coors,
I don't know. They might win today.
You'll think they'll win today? All right. Why not? Why not? Sandy, he just couldn't put anybody away in that start. Yeah. And so at that point, like you said, Isaac, whether it was in Coors, maybe the ball isn't flying out as much at other parks, but he couldn't put anybody away. And if you can't put anybody away, you're not going to get a lot of outs. And he got himself into a lot of trouble. So, Eli, you're joining us for the entire show today. It's great to have you. You've been
I've surprised myself.
as
I thought
usual.
I would dip out and dip in, but yeah.
No, it's been
Wi-Fi's
great to
holding
have
up.
you. So let's talk. Get your thoughts because we don't usually hear them from you. So let's get your thoughts on what you expect and just what you see
damn shame,
here in this
because
series.
if I had made my prediction for the last series, I'd be the only one picking the Marlins to lose that series, and it wouldn't have aged so poorly on the show and reflected so poorly on our analysis. But with this one, I think the Marlins take 2 out of 3.
Interesting.
Despite what it looks like on paper, close games probably throughout all these. I think I've made it clear how I feel about Zach Thompson. I think they're going to win tonight, despite being without Jazz, despite being not in a great shape with their bullpen. I think Thompson is going to give them a quality start against the Padres team. And then lose the middle one in pretty typical fashion. We've seen Sandy do this a bunch of times where he makes a great effort in that final game to more or less carry them over the finish line in that regard. Really legitimately shocked by what Brinson is doing. I think Brinson is going to have a couple extra base hits in this series. And I think if I have it right, I mean, they've done a pretty good job at like resting some of these key relievers during that Rocky series. I kind of like how James Rouson has managed his bullpen from a variety of ways, using guys all the time when he really needs them, and also, staying away from them when he understands that the game is kind of getting away from them. I prefer his style to Mattingly's in that regard, and I think it's going to pay off for this series. I think it'll be a nice, pleasant surprise the first time. Well, of course, they won a series against the Mets. It really hasn't been that long since they won a series. But every time that they do, it really lifts the whole mood of the entire Marlins community.
Yeah, I saw a lot of negative reaction this weekend, just like punting on 2022 because of one bad series at Coors Field, which I just thought was getting a little ahead of ourselves. But it has been 1 step forward, 2 steps back.
When do we not get ahead of ourselves?
Yeah, well, that's absolutely true. But Alex, your prediction for what we're going to see in this series?
Man, I got to go with Noah and Eli. I got to say they win 2 of 3. I've really loved what I've seen out of Zach Thompson. I want to see that continue. I think we see it continue tonight. That guy's been really good. Tomorrow, you're likely looking at Braxton Garrett. He is still with the team. He is on schedule to pitch tomorrow. Neidert just pitched in AAA. Our last show, I mentioned that maybe this would be a Neidert start, but they couldn't find the injury. They did send him back down. They didn't find the injury anywhere, and it looks like it's going to be Braxton. So Braxton tomorrow. That one, I think I agree with Eli. I think we lose. Braxton was okay last start. I mean, he wasn't perfect. He gave up like 5 or 6 hits and like 4 walks, but he didn't allow any runs. So he was good when it mattered against a pretty good team. So, that was nice to see it from him. I think that's also going to be a close game, but I think the Marlins will lose that one, and then we win Sandy on the third game of the series. But I would say one guy to look out for. He's going back home. He's a San Diego kid, Alex Jackson. Look for that guy to have a big series. That's my prediction.
All right, I'm going to be the negative Nancy on this stream, and I'm going to say that the Marlins get swept right out of town. Right? Not even a little bit of a contest. I think Sandy will pitch well. He responds well to poor starts the way that he did in LA, but I think it'll just be one of those where the Marlins just don't give him any run support. I think Thompson pitches well tonight. We know the pitching keeps them in every game. It didn't necessarily do that this weekend, but I think pitching will keep them in every game. But I think the Marlins are going to get swept. San Diego's really good, and the Marlins are just kind of reeling a little bit. Kind of seemed like wheels were coming off a little bit. When Miggy gets ejected and some errors and stuff like that, it just kind of seemed like wheels were coming off a little bit. But I want to see what I'm looking for is I want to see Lewis Brinson continue to perform. I want to see him keep it up, and Thompson and Sandy. So anyway, for everybody, for Eli, for Noah, for Isaac, for Alex, for Kevin, thank you for joining us as always. Enjoy your late night with the fish. And as always, go fish.
Eli, click the button.